Attorney General for Michigan. You have been on the front lines of the election integrity fight in Michigan for over a year now. You're running for Attorney General for the state. Michigan is one of the contested states from the 2020 election. You have a Republican legislature, yet it's also the state where we've seen the least amount of movement from elected officials. What's the current state of election affairs in Michigan?
Well, thanks for asking, and thanks for having me on, Christina. We finally completed the citizens petition that was introduced and sent to the Secretary of State's office for a full audit of the November 3rd, 2020 election. So that was sent to the Secretary of State yet. We completed the language. We had a rally out in Lansing yesterday, and then delivered that final citizens petition for approval with the canvassing board.
And why is the citizens petition significant as opposed to demanding it from the legislature or trying to petition the Secretary of State?
Well, the citizens petition is important because it cannot be vetoed by the governor. So there'll be a certain period of time that the legislature will have to take up the bill. If they don't, it'll be a referendum that'll go on the November 3rd, 2022 ballot. Well, not November 3rd, but November 2022.
Well, and just last week, you got a really nice shout out from President Trump for all this work that you've been doing. On December 16th, he said, "I'm hearing great things about Matt DePerno from delegates and party leaders in Michigan. He has been all over the great state of Michigan, gathering delegate and Republican Party endorsements and commitments. He says great things about you." And then he goes on to say, "I urge all Michigan delegates and party leaders to support Matt DePerno in the April Republican endorsement convention." Why are these delegates so important for the election?
Delegates are important because in Michigan, we have a delegate convention, April 23rd, 2022. So for Secretary of State and Attorney General and some other races, only delegates are allowed to vote at that convention, which is essentially a primary, but it's limited just to the delegates. So what we care about in these races right now are getting delegate support and getting delegates to show up to that April 23rd convention, which will be in Lansing.
So, and as we were just talking about, we've seen resistance to the MAGA movement by Republicans in Michigan, and you've been endorsed by President Trump, and you've been fighting for election integrity. And a delegation type of primary, shouldn't you be the obvious frontrunner, if you can say so yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's right now there's three candidates in the race. I'm the most conservative candidate in the race. I'm the only one who talks about election integrity. I'm the only one who talks about eliminating mask mandates and vaccine mandates. And I'm the only one who talks about eliminating critical race theory from this state. So those are the choices that the people in the state have, the delegates have at this point.
And why do you think the establishment Republicans, the more GOP, RNC type Republicans, are resistant to even discussing election integrity or allowing a minimal level of transparency? What's the holdup?
Well, either they may think that their race was somehow compromised when they won. Perhaps they don't want to learn that. Or, as I've been told by these establishment Republicans in Lansing, they've said that they don't want to talk about the November 2020 election because they believe Joe Biden will be doing such a bad job that they will pick up seats in the next election and then they'll fix the problems. So it's a political calculation on their part. And they've told me also that three Republicans in the last 3 weeks have told me that they don't believe I will be the Attorney General who will protect the party. Now think of that. They want an Attorney General who will step into the shoes really of Dana Nessel, the Democrat, and protect the party just like she protects the Democrat Party. And that's not the job of the Attorney General. The Attorney General's job is to protect the Constitution, the rule of law, and the people of the state.
Astonishing that you actually have to convey that to people in positions of power like that. But you tweeted out recently email images from a FOIA request and stated, "Macomb County colluding with Secretary of State Benson to deny FOIA requests." Why does Macomb County need input from the Secretary of State? What did you find in your FOIA search?
Yep. So we Macomb County was finally agreed to conduct an audit of their election results because we believe that Macomb County has significant problems. However, Macomb County hired a company called ProVNV, but then did not allow me or my team to participate in that audit. So we did a FOIA request of all their communications and found out that the Macomb County was directly communicating with the Secretary of State to get their input on how the audit would be conducted, who could be part of it, who could not be part of it, what information would be provided.
And ProVNV actually, coincidentally maybe, is one of the companies that Maricopa County, not the Senate, but the county hired to do their audit back in February, saying, oh, no, we've already done an audit. You don't need to do the Arizona audit. And now you have the Secretary of State of Michigan doing the same thing, providing no transparency. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely no transparency. But more importantly, what we see is that their audit itself was very surface level. They never intended to get deep into the actual issues, never really wanted to look to find any fraud. But more importantly, getting direction from the Secretary of State. Now think of this. Here I am, one of these Republicans out in Michigan fighting for election integrity. We continue to be attacked by the Democrats, Secretary of State Benson and AG Nessel, and yet our own party, the Republican clerk in Macomb County, actively colluding with the Secretary of State to hide information and evidence regarding fraud that occurred in the actual county.
And what's the resistance to having President Trump really be the face of the Republican Party? Because you're seeing many Republicans too. I know Dana Nessel and the Secretary of State in Michigan, as you're talking about, are Democrats, but you're seeing Michigan Republicans basically agreeing and allowing that obstruction to take place, and citizens can't actually see clearly. Yet Trump and Trump supporters are calling for transparency, like yourself, candidates like yourself, calling for transparency. Why wouldn't the Republican Party or Republicans within the state of Michigan just 100% get behind that and support that idea?
Well, it's a good question. It's a question I'd like to know the answer to as well. We want every Republican in this state to come together and unite. And what we see is certain factions within the Republican Party in Michigan trying to divide people, trying to create disharmony, trying to create dissension within the party. And I continue to call on every Republican in the state to unite with me and other America First candidates who are seeking the truth. That should not be something that people oppose.
Right. And for Michigan residents watching, or for those outside of Michigan who share your concern and who want to see an honest, fair, transparent audit of Michigan and a transparent and fair election in 2022, what's your advice to them? What do they do?
Well, my advice to them is to help us support this new initiative that we put forth, help support my candidacy. Go to depernoformi.com, DEPERNOFORMI.com, and support all America First candidates in the next election. Come out to vote. We can't have this talk that people say where they're so discouraged with the last election that they're not going to vote.
Right.
We have to vote in massive numbers in 2016.
Right.
So, and we got to be poll watchers, and we got to be poll challengers. We got to be trained. We have the courage. We have to have the courage to stand up and fight against the tyranny that we've seen over the last 2 years. But one other thing we found in the responses we got on the FOIA was that Rock the Vote actually built the interface for the qualified voter roll in Michigan. So we've been lied to since November 2020, when the Secretary of State told us under oath in the case we filed in Antrim County, that Rock the Vote had no input or nothing to do, or was in no way affiliated with the qualified voter roll. That turned out to be false.
That's astonishing that they're letting a liberal group basically control the voter roll, or at least have some input into it. Matt DePerno, thank you so much for your time today and for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on, Christina.
When we come back.